The U.S. Marine was halfway across the lawn near the mall in Washington when he felt a gentle tug at his sleeve. He looked down and saw a young boy, maybe around 8 or 9 years old. The Marine crouched down so they were eye level. The boy didn't say a word. His eyes were wide, and he looked unsure of himself, but he quietly slipped a small note into the Marine's hand. Then, without saying anything, he turned and ran back the way he came. The Marine, confused, opened the note. As he read the words, a jolt of urgency ran through him. He stood up quickly, pulled out his phone, and called for backup. Whatever was in that note, it couldn't wait. 8-year-old Kenan Williamson sat at the kitchen table in the tiny apartment he shared with his mom. He was doing his homework and watching the clock, waiting for the short bit of time he got with her each day. She left before sunrise, out the door by 5 a.m., and didn't get back until around 5 in the evening. They had about 30 minutes together. In that time, she'd listen to his stories, they'd share something small to eat, and then she'd head back out to her second job. Kenan understood how hard she worked to keep things going. He saw it in her tired eyes, the way her shoulders drooped, and the way she tried to smile even when she looked worn out. At 5:05, Kenan got up from the table and went to open the door. He caught her just as she reached the top of the stairs. She looked extra tired today, and there was something about the way she frowned that told him she was carrying more than just the weight of her long day. They hugged and held hands as they walked inside. She sat down at the table with him, quiet at first. He could tell she was trying to find the right words. He didn't rush her. He knew she'd talk when she was ready. Kenan gently reached across the table and placed his small hand on hers. Jennifer Williamson looked at her son. Her heart ached. What she needed to tell him would shake the little stability they had, but there was no getting around it. He had to know. They were all each other had, just the two of them facing the world together. "Kenan," she began softly, I need you to be brave. There's something I have to tell you." Right away, she saw the worry flicker across his small face. It crushed her inside. Kenan had grown up so quickly after his dad left. He just seemed to understand things without needing to be told. While she was working, he kept things tidy, washing the dishes, straightening the living room, and keeping his room spotless. He even offered to do laundry sometimes, but she couldn't bring herself to let him carry more than he already did. He knew too much for someone his age. Jennifer paused, took a steadying breath, and held both of his little hands in hers. She told him she had been to the doctor twice over the past few weeks, once for tests, and again today for the results. The news wasn't good. The doctor had found cancer in her breast. They'd talked through treatment options, but none of them came with strong odds. The most the doctor had given her, at best, was 6 months. She tried to keep her words as gentle as possible, not wanting to add more weight to her son's young heart. But softening the truth too much wouldn't help him either. As she spoke, she watched his face twist in pain. His eyes filled with tears, and he quickly wiped them away with the back of his hand. Jennifer gave his hand a tight squeeze. She promised him she was going to fight with everything she had, but it would take money. Treatments and medications weren't cheap, and she wouldn't be able to work like before. That meant money would be tighter than ever. Tears slid down Jennifer's cheeks now, too. Right in front of her, she saw Kenan shift. He did what he always did. He put on that brave face for her. It was like he aged in an instant, showing her with his eyes and his quiet strength that he was ready to step up. He always made her feel like she wasn't alone. But deep down, she knew. This time, there was no winning fight. She squeezed his hands again and continued. "Since I can't work as much, we won't be able to have the kind of Christmas we were planning, Kenan," she said, her voice unsteady. For 6 months, she'd been saving bit by bit, hoping to give him the happiest Christmas they'd ever had. In their small moments together, they'd laughed, made little plans, talked about decorations, and imagined something joyful to hold on to, despite everything else. It was supposed to be a bright spot, a memory he could carry. Kenan gave a small, brave smile. "It's okay, Mommy," he said quietly. "We'll still make it special. We'll be together, and everything we wanted to do this year can wait until next year, when you're all better." Jennifer's heart ached. She didn't have the words to explain that there might not be a next Christmas. The truth just sat heavy in her chest. Upstairs in his room, Kenan's thoughts were all over the place. Part of him was deeply scared and sad. He knew, even if he didn't want to say it out loud, that his mom was very sick. That part of him wanted to curl up and cry forever. But there was another side of him, too, the side that his mom had lovingly called the Kenan plan side. That part kicked in, pushing the fear down and switching to action mode. Right then, he made up his mind. This would be the best Christmas his mom ever had. He didn't know how just yet, but the decision was made. And when Kenan decided on something, he always gave it his all. The next day at school, Kenan could hardly focus. 3 of his teachers called him out for not paying attention, and they weren't wrong. His mind was completely elsewhere. But he wasn't about to explain what was really going on. Not yet. By lunchtime, though, the idea had started to take shape. By the end of the day, while he was walking to the bus stop, it had all come together in his head. When the bus dropped him off a block from home, Kenan didn't walk. He ran. He had a book in his room he needed, the last piece to pull everything together. As soon as he got through the door, he raced to his bookshelf and searched until he found it. Practical Steps for Young Entrepreneurs. That was the one. He spent the next few hours reading and rereading a single chapter, soaking in every word. The following morning, Kenan was up before his mom. He made her breakfast and carefully balanced the tray as he pushed her bedroom door open with his foot. "My sweet boy," she whispered when she woke up, "you really are my angel." As she slowly ate, Kenan looked at her and asked gently, "Mom, is it okay if I go to the mall in the city after school today?" "What do you want to do there?" his mom asked, a little suspicious. "It's for school," Kenan replied, trying to sound casual. "We have to interview people, ask them questions, and write down what they say." He didn't like lying to her, not one bit, but this part was important. If his plan was going to work, she couldn't know just yet. She gave him a long look, then finally nodded. "1 hour," she said, "that's all." Kenan almost got detention during first period for zoning out. That would have ruined everything. He quickly snapped back to attention and made sure he stayed focused for the rest of the lesson. When break rolled around, he found a quiet corner in the cafeteria, pulled out his notebook, and started writing. There were lots of scratch-outs and corrections, but after a while, he felt good about what he had. That was step 1. Step 2? The book said 50, so he'd need 50 copies of the note. Kenan ran toward the school's admin building. Break was nearly over. He breathed a sigh of relief when he spotted an open copier. Just in time. For the rest of the school day, Kenan was calm. He'd done his part. After 3 p.m., he stepped off the bus and walked straight toward the mall. The book had said he needed 50 people. Looking around, he smiled. There were more than enough. He'd picked the right spot. He thought again about what that chapter said in Practical Steps for Young Entrepreneurs. Once your plan is ready, you have to market it, and that starts by sharing it with at least 50 people. Kenan was going to do just that. He pulled out his stack of notes. One by one, he would hand them out. He only needed one person to care, just one. That was enough. Andrew Stiles had been in the Marines for 3 years. Right now, he was stationed with the unit guarding the West Wing of the White House. He happened to be off duty, just walking through the mall to clear his head when a young boy approached him and handed him a note. The look on the kid's face struck him, like the boy already knew what he was doing was serious. When Andrew unfolded the note and read it, he had to pause. He swallowed hard, pushing down the emotion. This boy needed help. And helping, that's exactly what Marines were trained to do. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Everyone, he said firmly at the end of the call. No excuses. We've got a mission. A short while later, Andrew met up with a group of fellow Marines just off Connecticut Street. Once everyone was there, he got their attention. "There's a kid," he began, voice steady. "His mom's very sick. He's got real heart, and we're going to help him. Here's the plan." The Marines leaned in close, ready to listen and act on Kenan's brave idea. Kenan was working through his homework, but his mind was never far from his mom. He could hear her shifting around in the bedroom, restless, clearly uncomfortable. Just as he was making her a cup of tea, the phone rang. "Is that Private Williamson?" came a firm voice on the other end. Kenan blinked, confused. "This is Kenan," he said, "but who are you trying to reach?" "This is Sergeant Andrew Stiles," the voice replied. "You became one of us the moment you asked for our help, and we're going to help you." Kenan suddenly understood. He'd handed one of his notes to a soldier at the mall the day before. This had to be him. "Can we meet?" the Marine asked. "Maybe after school tomorrow?" The next afternoon, when Kenan walked out of school, 3 Marines stood waiting in full uniform. As soon as they saw him, they greeted him with respect, like he was already part of the team. It filled him with pride. Over burgers at a nearby diner, they asked him about his plan. He did his best to explain it all, adding that he needed adult help to actually pull it off. He just wanted to give his mom the best Christmas ever, especially if it turned out to be her last. The Marine smiled warmly. Andrew nodded and said, "Well, soldier, you came to the right place. We've got your back. Here's what we're going to do." Andrew was completely moved by Kenan's heart. They were going to make this boy's Christmas dream happen no matter what. But as they sat there planning, Andrew was already thinking ahead. He had an idea forming, something even bigger, something neither Kenan nor his mom would see coming. He pulled out his phone and made another call. Kenan started counting the days to Christmas. He could feel something amazing coming. The Marines were all in. He could tell. Now the hardest part was keeping everything a secret from his mom. On Christmas morning, Kenan helped his mom out of bed. He ran a warm bath, laid out her clothes, and gave her soft encouragement, even when he could see how much pain she was in. Once she was ready, he walked her to the kitchen and helped her into her chair at the table. She looked at him with tired but smiling eyes. "What are you up to, Kenan?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're up to something. I can see it." There was a knock at the door. "You sit, Mom. I'll get it," Kenan said quickly. He jumped up and ran over. When he opened the door, there stood 9 Marines, each holding something in their arms. One had a turkey, another held a glazed ham. Some carried vegetables, others had trays of dessert. 2 of them were holding a fully decorated Christmas tree, and another had a big bag filled with wrapped gifts. "Where do you want everything, Private?" Andrew asked with a grin. Kenan lit up with a proud smile and pointed to the corner for the tree, then led the way to the kitchen. "Sergeant Andrew Stiles of the U.S. Marine Corps. At your service, ma'am," Andrew said with a small bow when they stepped into the room. "You just sit and relax. We've got lunch handled." Tears spilled down Jennifer's cheeks as she looked around in disbelief. She pulled Kenan into her arms. "You did all this?" she asked softly. Then came another knock. Andrew turned toward the door. "I've got it. I know who that is." A moment later, he returned with an older man who carried himself with quiet confidence. "This is my father," Andrew said with pride. "Dr. Quentin Stiles. He's an oncologist." What Andrew didn't mention was that his father was one of the top cancer specialists in the country, known for giving hope where there seemed to be none. Patients from all over came to see him when things looked impossible, and somehow he often found a way. Andrew knelt on one side of Jennifer while Dr. Stiles sat on the other. "My dad has agreed to treat you," Andrew said gently, "and it won't cost you a cent." 1 year later, Kenan and Jennifer sat in their cozy living room. A small Christmas tree stood in the corner, and the smell of roast turkey filled the air. Christmas cards from Andrew and Dr. Quentin Stiles were pinned to the corkboard by the kitchen. Jennifer smiled as she looked at her son. "This Christmas is special, Kenan," she said quietly. "I'm only here because of what you did last year. You're my hero, truly." What an amazing ending to a tough journey. Have you ever been in a moment of need and someone, maybe even a Marine, showed up and changed everything? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little hope today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.